like to really thank all of our organizers today. We have, if you could please raise your hand as I call you out. We have Julia and Aaron and Christina. Yeah. We have Emma and Alice and Claire, who all worked hard to make this happen. And thank you to all our supporters and coalition partners who show up as organizers and make this happen. On a little really cool side note, over here we have extra water bottles and masks and a medical team if anyone should need it. They have the big black book bags. So those are the people to go to if you need them. Okay. All right. Before I introduce our first speaker, I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone to please use gender-inclusive language when speaking about abortion. Many people may want or need an abortion, not just women. And we want to be inclusive of all their perspectives and experiences, okay? So for our first speaker today, we have Ash, an anti-carceral and reproductive justice organizer and also an abortion doula who would like to share on this topic. Take it away.
Testing. Thank you. I'm so excited to be with y'all today because I believe abortion is healthcare. Yeah. I'm here today as someone who funds abortion. I'm here today as an abortion doula who provides informational, emotional, and when given consent, physical support to people who choose abortion. I am here today as a Black trans abortion haver, having funded 2 abortions for myself and hundreds for people all over the country. My job as an abortion doula, though, is to increase the choices for people to have trans-affirming reproductive care with low barriers. I really appreciate the march and the rally organizers for pointing out that people who are not women have abortions too. We live in a country where abortions are very restricted, folks. We live in a region where abortions are even more restricted. So yes, here I'm talking about that 72-hour waiting period that many of us have to wait after we've decided to have an abortion. But I'm also talking about cost as a barrier. I'm talking about stigma, shame as a barrier, and I am definitely talking about white supremacy as a barrier. But we can't forget about capitalism and time, right? So in this moment, because of those barriers, we need to rely on the pre-existing networks of supporting care. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to combat stigma and shame by being pro-abortion, not just pro-choice, folks. We have to fund abortion and we have to build power. Abortion is sacred. Abortion is good. Abortion is life-giving. Abortion is a type of birth. Abortion is healthcare, and everyone who wants one deserves one. So in 1997, right, women of color developed the reproductive justice framework. They believed that every person deserves the right to have a baby. Every person deserves the right to not have a baby and decide the conditions under which they will not give birth. Also, this framework says that people, that's you and me, the children that exist, we deserve to live in a world free from harm, from the government, from the environment, and from other individuals and systems and structures that wish to do us harm. The last part of that framework, though, folks, is decolonizing sex and pleasure to realize a vision for reproductive justice. So I want y'all to support your local abortion funds beyond Planned Parenthood. I want you to sharpen your analysis because there is no choice without access. So this isn't just about hangers and rights. It is about abolition. It is about building power. It is about showing up in our own communities to increase abortion access by funding. Some of us have already lived these post-Roe realities that I'm sure you're hearing a lot about. Those people are Black people. Those people are trans people. Those people are people who live in rural areas where there aren't any abortion clinics. Those people are incarcerated people. Those people are disabled people, and those people are poor people. Police, prisons, and the state are not in alignment with my vision for reproductive justice. Roe versus Wade cannot save us, and rights cannot protect us in this moment. So I want y'all to do what you can to support the Mountain Area Abortion Doula Collective, Blue Ridge Abortion Fund, Mountain Access Brigade, the Carolina Abortion Fund. These are all orgs that you can support right now with your dollars and political action. Abortion havers deserve care. We deserve accurate information about abortion, and we all deserve love and support. Today, as you rally, remember that this is a call to action. Do what you can, where you live, with the resources and skills that you have to increase abortion right now.
Thank you, Ash. We really appreciate your activism and your fabulous insights. So lucky to have him. All right. So, interesting fact. Despite what some anti-abortion people may tell you, we do not have poor data on deaths from abortion. We have very good data, excellent even. It's extremely rare because abortion is incredibly safe. In fact, having an abortion is about 14 times safer than going through childbirth. So let's all keep that in mind. Next we have Linda to come and speak for us. She's a Planned Parenthood greeter and fervent believer that abortion access is just as much about racial and economic justice as it is about women's health and rights to our bodies. So, take it away, Linda. Julia, do you know where she's at? All right, we're gonna find Linda and come up at her in a little bit. All right. Good. Well, I'm very excited about introducing our next speaker. So I'd like to bring Jenny up. This is my fellow co-chair of Asheville DSA, their leading lady, and take it away, Jenny.
It is so good to see everybody here today. We all know why we're here, right? Yeah, we're here today in response to a declaration of war. The pro-forced birth legislation recently passed in Texas reinforces what we already know, that women, trans men, impy folks, the poor, the working class, and BIPOC people are under attack. We know that restricting abortion doesn't stop abortion. It just makes abortion less safe. We know that this ban in Texas does not affect the lives of wealthy Texans in need of abortion care, as these people can afford to leave the state or the country to get the health care they now cannot get at home. And we know that the issue of abortion has never just been about the act of terminating a pregnancy. While control over the bodies of people who can become pregnant is an integral and important part of this issue, it is not the sole motivator of these bans. We know this, right? In case we don't, let's get learning. We see abortion bans and simultaneously no subsidized contraception in order to prevent unplanned pregnancies when the owning class is concerned about populations declining. In countries where workers are needed to create surplus wealth for the owning class to hoard, where soldiers are needed to fight their endless wars, and where prisoners are needed to fill their for-profit prisons, a population decline threatens the insatiable lifestyles of those who have built said lifestyles on the labor and struggles of the working class. 2015 was the last year this country saw a population increase. It's been declining ever since. In fact, at 1.72 children per woman, the birth rate in these so-called United States is the lowest it has ever been. The timing of these bans is not coincidental. The ever-increasing cost of survival is cited as the #1 reason people are seeking abortions or choosing not to have children. If the pro-forced birth movement in these so-called United States was truly about life and thriving, we would see barriers to economic hardships removed. As author Jenny Brown puts it, the fact that fewer people are willing to have children isn't surprising, given the undermining of everything that makes working class life viable. But it does put the establishment in a bind. If they want to increase the birth rate voluntarily, they'll have to put resources into universal child care, health care, paid parental leave, and livable wages and working hours. Naturally, they prefer to take away reproductive liberties because it's a much cheaper way to boost the birth rate. In Europe, yeah, boo. In Europe, politicians openly discuss declining birth rates and react with programs that make it easier to combine work and family, providing substantial paid parental leave. Maternal leave right now in Sweden is up to 480 paid days. We can have that here. We can have that here. Having children is an extremely joyful decision. All kinds of joy can come from that decision. But if we are not ready to make that decision, that joy is diminished because our survival is at risk. We need universal child care, national health care, monthly payments to parents, ample sick leave, shortened work hours, and other blandishments here that parents in the United States can only dream of. That is what we need. So, abortion isn't a cultural issue. The production of children and who will pay for it is a key economic battlefront. Reproductive labor, that is, the labor required to produce and raise people, workers, is unpaid labor. This is free labor. So does this fight call you? You're here, right? What will you do after this rally is over? Ketchup and salt. This is not about getting some iconic photos for social media and labeling it #women's rights. It goes beyond that, right? This is more serious than that and requires more from us than that. If we don't want to be forced into at least 18 years of unpaid labor, after all, who would willingly allow that treatment for jobs outside of the home? If we want to be able to make decisions based on our own life situations and resources and what we know is right for us, if we refuse to accept any system where BIPOC people and the working class are disproportionately adversely affected, and if we understand that the legislation in Texas is only the first step toward eliminating any semblance of reproductive justice we have, then we must organize. Network with folks here. You're in good company. Network with folks here. Talk to the brilliant organizations over here on the perimeter that have set up tables. And please, please grasp that this rally is not enough. It's not even close. Abortion is our right to strike against untenable reproductive working conditions. I'll say it again. Abortion is our right to strike against untenable reproductive working conditions. We demand the right to an abortion without interference. We demand Medicare for all to cover the cost of abortion, birth control, and childbirth. We demand paid leave, affordable child care, and the right to have or refuse to have children. And we must unite together to fight back and demand control over our bodies. We will not be forced to have and raise your exploited workers. We will not be forced to have and raise your exploited workers. Say it with me. We will not be forced to have and raise your exploited workers. Again, we will not be forced to have and raise your exploited workers. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jenny, for that impassioned speech. Let's get riled up. Woo! Yeah. All right. So here's a thought-provoking question, and Jenny laid it out beautifully for us. Just something to keep in our minds and keep that fire building inside. Is it possible that our government and elite ruling class have been pushing to outlaw abortion for decades because they want to replenish the labor force, and because it's easier to control and take advantage of an overworked and overburdened working class? Keep that in your mind as we keep trucking along. Next, I am delighted to invite Elaine, a local feminist attorney, practices in North Carolina and nationally, proving domestic violence as well as child and physical and sexual abuse cases. In 1991, Elaine founded and co-chaired the grassroots organization that was successful in eliminating North Carolina's marital rape exemption in 1993. Yeah, that had prevented husbands from being prosecuted for raping their wives. For over a year, Elaine has been representing over 80 nationwide pro-ERA organizations. Amicus Curiae, Friends of the Court, is the only federal lawsuit filed by women to force the government to publish the fully ratified Equal Rights Amendment in the Constitution as the 28th Amendment, which was blocked by Trump and the Attorney General Bill Barr in 2020. Anyway, without further ado, Elaine, take it away.
Thank you all for coming, and I'm really glad to see everybody, and I love all the signs.
Close to your mouth. You're good.
Can you hear me now? Yes. I feel like I'm on a cell. Okay. So, I am here to tell you a secret weapon that we have.
Close to your mouth.
Okay, sorry. I'll try to do that. I am here to tell you a secret weapon that we all can work towards that can quickly protect our reproductive rights. And what that is the ERA. The ERA says that the United States nor any other state can discriminate on the basis of sex. Sex is also been interpreted by the Supreme Court to apply to LGBT people in the Bostock case. But in this situation, it's a little complicated. I'm going to try to let you understand why and then tell you what you can do, okay? So, the year when Roe came out, there was another case at the Supreme Court called Frontiero. And there was another case at the court called Frontiero with Roe versus Wade. And the issue came up to the justices, especially Justice Brennan, that women should be considered a suspect class the same as race or alienage, which would give, when the courts look at the law, it would give women a lot stronger ground to prevail. So that means strict scrutiny is what it's called. If the ERA is put in the Constitution, which it should have been done a year and a half ago, in January of 2020, when it was actually fully ratified, last state being Virginia, that's 38 states, it will make sex, gender, a suspect class. And it will make the court have to give these cases strict scrutiny. And the general rule that you learn in law school is that if you have strict scrutiny, the law is probably going to get knocked down. Okay, so the thing is that when that case was coming through, the ERA had just been sent out to the states by the Congress, and they knew, the justices knew that would provide strict scrutiny. And so what they did is they said, we don't want to overstep when the Article 5 amendatory process is already out there to the states. So they stepped back and did not use it. And then came Roe versus Wade. And there were not enough justices then to say that under equal protection that women should have the right to an abortion. So they looked elsewhere. They looked to privacy, which is implied in many amendments, and that included the 14th Amendment, which is where the Equal Protection Clause also is. So what the problem with this is, and this is why it's so critical that we understand that with the 3 justices that Trump put on the court, that they are textualists. They read the text of the Constitution. And if you look in the Constitution, privacy does not show up. But if we have the Equal Rights Amendment in there, then they can use equal rights. In the case that the DOJ, Department of Justice, filed in Texas against the Texas law just recently, one of their grounds is the Equal Protection Clause, thankfully. So, you may ask, why does this matter? Why do equal rights matter for women? And that's because sex discrimination has been the law of the land since this country was formed 245 years ago. And it was grounded in paternalism, you know, smash the patriarchy, yeah. And it was meant, supposedly, to put women on a pedestal. But it didn't put women on a pedestal, it put us in a cage. Okay? It stopped us from doing things like owning property, getting custody of our children, basic things that now, having the right to make a contract, keeping your own wages. Okay? So basically that sounds crazy, but when contraception started coming out after the 1900s, in the 1900s, that started giving women some power. And I just want to say that for abortion, it is based on the same grounds as reproductive control, like the pill, or any abortion pills. So it's still based in that privacy realm. So we need the ERA for that too, because it's just a slippery slope. They get rid of Roe, they can get rid of the contraception, because they are trying to keep us in the kitchen. And I don't even like to cook, so. So, you know, at that point, women were having babies literally every year. Then comes along the ERA, and I just want to explain to you where we are and why this is our secret weapon that can be put in the Constitution, physically published in the Constitution this month, literally this month. We needed 38 states to ratify the amendment, the ERA, Equal Rights Amendment. That happened finally on January 27th, 2020 by Virginia. And what happened is just before they passed that and ratified the ERA, Trump, you remember him? And Bill Barr, you remember him? He was the Attorney General. There is a thing called the Office of Legal Counsel inside the Department of Justice, and Bill Barr got the Office of Legal Counsel to write a memo saying that the deadline, the 7-year deadline that was put in the original ERA was still good, and told the archivist he was not allowed to publish the ERA in the Constitution. Now, the archivist is our national librarian, okay? And he had a duty, what they call a mandatory ministerial duty, to publish any amendment. So, what happened is they did that OLC opinion, and as soon as Virginia ratified, the first federal lawsuit was started by women. Equal means equal, and an individual woman and a group of girls who had a feminist organization, and they filed a lawsuit trying to get the court to order the archivist to publish the ERA as the 28th Amendment, which it is the 28th Amendment. The Supreme Court says that the day the last state ratifies, which was January 27th, 2020, is the effective date of the amendment. Okay? So it's effective, but unfortunately, there's a lot of confusion out there. So, the archivist said, I don't think the archivist really wanted to go along with Bill Barr, but he had to. And but the archivist said, if I get a court order telling me to publish, I will do so. So they filed, and that's the case that I'm involved in. I represent the Friends of the Court, some of the Friends of the Court, and some are here. The North Carolina ERA Coalition is here in green. Here they go. They're fabulous. And then the 3 last states also filed a lawsuit. And that was Arizona, Illinois, and Virginia. They filed a lawsuit also saying, as the women did, that the deadline was unconstitutional. And the reason the deadline was unconstitutional is because states can only vote up or down on an amendment based on what is in the amendment's actual language. But the deadline was not in the actual language of the amendment. It was in what's called the preamble. So it took away the state's power, equal power, to say whether there should be a deadline or not, because they didn't give them the chance. So it's unconstitutional. And all that has to happen is the OLC amendment could be withdrawn in an executive order, even, by President Biden. And President Biden can, in the same executive order, direct the archivist to publish the ERA as the 28th Amendment. All 38 states have been certified as ratifying the ERA by the archivist, so that's not an issue. The issue of ratification is not an issue. The issue of the deadline is not an issue because it doesn't exist. From the beginning, it was void from the beginning because it's unconstitutional. So what I want y'all to please do, what I'd like y'all to please do, is realize that when Biden ran for president in his agenda for women, he had a campaign promise to, quote, enshrine women's equality in the Constitution. Okay? That was his promise. And he also acknowledged in that their 38 states had already ratified the ERA. So you would think that as soon as he became president that he would have done that. And we thought that too, but we were wrong. So he didn't do anything. And then he got Merrick Garland, and everybody says, well, wait a minute, he's trying to get his people in line. Then he got Merrick Garland, and then nothing happened, except that the DOJ, the Department of Justice, continued to fight with Trump and Barr's legal arguments against the ERA in both those federal cases and are still doing so today. So what y'all need to do, in my opinion, I beg you to do, is to, on all your social media, and write to the White House, and you can write to the Department of Justice and tell them that President Biden needs to publish the ERA now. You can, and if you want to link, if you want to tag the DOJ, just tag @Civil Rights. That's the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. And you can hashtag publish ERA, and then as hashtag 28th AMD for amendment now. Thank you.
Accountable. Way to bring us back to reflecting on our constitutional rights that should be ours. Reminder that any ban on abortion is not only unacceptable, it's unconstitutional. And we will fight for our rights. Ow! All right. So we're coming now to really the most important part of our rally today. We're about to invite folks to share their personal stories about abortion. And we're so grateful to have Emma and Leslie here, two very brave people who are willing to share their stories about their abortion experiences. So after they speak, we will be opening this up to others who are willing to share about this very important topic that's been pushed into the shadows and silenced for far too long. So I invite you to be thinking about your own experiences and if it's something you'd be willing to share about today. I want to emphasize the importance of maintaining a safe space and container here so that those who want to feel comfortable sharing, and that means really sharing only about your personal stories and how abortion and abortion access has touched your own life. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Leslie, and she's here to share her story about her abortion experience at 19. Thank you so much, Leslie.
Hello, my name is Leslie Carey, and here we are again. But it's incredible to see so many people out here so that we can have choices over our own reproductive system. And we all have different reasons why we joined this march today. And this is my reason. When I was 19, I went to college, I had a job, I had an apartment. Sex does not make you ready to raise a child. Well, I was terrified and I felt alone. I knew I could go to Planned Parenthood and that they would help me. I had access to a safe abortion. This is the first time I'm sharing this story. I'm 43, and I have 4 children. I'm married to that guy. And for the first time, I'm sharing with more than my closest friends, not even my parents. And why is that? Because the message was sent to me loud and consistently from an early age. Promiscuity is what leads to pregnancy. Having an abortion meant I should feel shame, that I was a bad person, a careless person, a godless person, someone that should be punished. And I know I'm not alone in that feeling. And we need to change that narrative rather than let them dictate it. It's been made clear by our society that a heteronormative woman should be married in order to have sex, while the Brock Turners, Brett Kavanaughs, and Madison Cawthorns can't be inconvenienced with accountability. But those of us that identify as women, we can be punished because it's not really about the abortion. It's about the control over us. The bros of the world get their free passes to rape because they're often too young to carry such a burden of jail time. And the powers that be keep reinforcing these messages by ignoring their behavior, excusing their behavior, and defunding the ability for those of us that need an abortion to have access to one, or early sex education, or free birth control. And these new horrific laws out of Texas, Mississippi, that strip us of rights over our own body, and other states that want to follow with more constricting guidelines and might want to completely eliminate the possibility of any alternative besides carrying out a pregnancy under every circumstance. From heartbeat bills, state mandated counseling, or these 6 weeks gestational limits, our rights are in jeopardy all over the country, and this is a clear attack on those of us that identify as women. What can we do about it? These abortion bans are only meant to protect a belief system where those that identify as women must be controlled. We're not going to be quiet about it, though, are we? No. And it would be selfish of me to not want the same opportunity of a clean and safe facility to have an abortion for others in my same situation, of which there are millions. There are millions of us that had to do this, or that will have to do this. And abortions will still happen if they try to outlaw them, only it will kill more identifying women in the process. We need to have safe and legal access to terminating a pregnancy for whatever reason we choose. It is not up to the law to judge whom is morally allowed to have an abortion. And here's the great thing about being pro-choice. You can choose to not have an abortion. But when you take away our rights, you're telling us we're not our own person. You're forcing us to be a character in your belief system. So all of us that are here today, if you want to keep abortion safe and legal, which of course you do, between a person and their doctor, I urge you, vote for the people up and down the ballot that are not idle about this decision. Vote for people that believe we are human beings capable of making choices over our own body. I am here to advocate for those that will also face the same scenario as I did, and we must keep advocating for each other. Together we can make sure we are treated as humans. I'm Leslie Carey, and that's my story.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you so much for your bravery and sharing. We appreciate it very much. Yes. Next, I would like to introduce Emma. Emma is a local event organizer, and she is only 19 years old and is already a very passionate and involved community member. So glad to have her. Thank you, Emma.
Before I get into my story, I just want to say I am here specifically representing a younger generation of educated people who want to fight for our rights and the rights of others. Thank you. My story is one of not feeling like you have a choice and having to lose a lot of family in order to make your choice. I grew up in an upper-class conservative Christian family, and I had been told my whole life that abortion was murder, that it was never an option. So when I was 15 years old, someone very close to me took advantage of me, and that resulted in a pregnancy. When I went to my father, who was my idol, the person I trusted most, and told him I was beyond shocked to be in a car on the way to Planned Parenthood to have an abortion. The same man that had preached at me my entire life that abortion was murder and that everyone had a right to life was now paying for me to have an abortion. I made a choice sitting in that waiting room that I was going to keep my unborn child, but I was told by my father and my family to not speak to them until I'd gotten rid of it. I was able to make a choice, but many are not, and it is not always easy to share these personal stories, but it is important. And it's important to normalize that abortion is healthcare and we deserve to make decisions for our own bodies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. It's great to have young organizers showing up and having future community leaders taking the lead. All right. So we have had 2 more volunteers step forward to share their story.
Pregnancy to the Uber driver who dropped them at the clinic. In allowing this law to pass into the implementation phase, the Supreme Court has effectively declared an end to the right to abortion in the United States. And unless the U.S. Senate acts quickly to take up and pass the Women's Health Protection Act, you can rest assured that copycat bills will soon pop up in reactionary state houses across the country, including right here in North Carolina. In the process, the court has dealt a grievous collateral blow, not just to abortion rights and those who need abortion access, but to all those who receive health care services through abortion providers like Planned Parenthood. Let us not forget that virtually all abortion providers also deliver other equally essential services. For instance, the Planned Parenthood Clinic here in Asheville offers general practice medicine, cervical cancer screenings, hormone replacement therapy, and other life-saving and life-affirming care to transgender people like me. Laws that target abortion clinics for closure will inevitably have dire repercussions for the broader health of the communities those clinics serve, repercussions that will weigh most heavily on the backs of the poorest, most exploited, and oppressed people in our society. Roe v. Wade was not a victory won overnight, and it wasn't a munificent gift from our benevolent rulers. Roe was the culmination of generations of bitter struggle, waged by women fighting for their own liberation, and 3 more generations of feminists and fighters have struggled just as bitterly simply to hold the line and hold on to what was won.